Hello and welcome to the Asia Lifestyle Magazine podcast. And in this episode, I've been looking forward to this episode for so long. We're joined by Jo Hall. She is, the profile that you have, I'm really excited to go through life and experiences. So Jo was the head honcho in so many of these really well-known companies. You've worked for Woolworths, you've worked for Marks and Spencer's, and most famously Toys R Us.
Correct.
You were the COO, the Chief Commercial Officer
Yeah.
of Toys R Us for many years in Asia, and you've now chosen Phuket as your home base in retirement. But you're not retired. You still
dabbling a little bit.
So one thing that I love about your story is you are the definition of expat. You've basically been on this journey around the world with your companies, woman in power, but you've come to Asia and you've settled really, really nicely. You've raised your kids here. And so tell me about yourself, Jo.
Cool. Where do I start? I've been in retail, nearly 40 years. It's in the blood, if you like. Started at Marks and Spencer's back in Baker Street days. Which, it was the iconic building, the head office. So that was pretty exciting as a 22-year-old living in London, living the life, working for a great brand. And after that, I joined Toys R Us. And the contrast was really quite stark, going from a traditional British institution to joining a bunch of cowboys who were hustling and dealing and swearing and smoking. Oh my God, it was wild. It was like the Wild West. There were only 4 stores in the UK at the time. I was like the 3rd or 4th hire as an assistant buyer. But the team, it was a very testosterone-fueled environment, believe me. A lot of very successful men, where it was absolutely the norm. Everybody smoked, everybody swore, there was a lot of shouting going on, but it was fun. We were opening a lot of stores and doing a lot of deals and hustling. And I ended up being promoted at the age of 28 to be a buying manager, told to get a PA, hire a team. I was like, and suddenly I'd leapfrogged my peers who were all married men. And that didn't go down terribly well. It was, in fact, the resentment was really quite palpable in those days. And I just had to get on with it. We were married, trying for a family. I was traveling extensively with Toys R Us, going to the US a lot, but also helping them open up European stores. So nothing out of the ordinary to get up early on that first flight out of Heathrow to go to Cologne or Paris and come back later in the day, same day trips. And then, after I did 12 years at TRU, I helped set up a .com, as everybody did in the sort of 1990s.
It was kind of the thing to do then.
It was. But what attracted me, it was still in the toy space, but it was with a very eclectic board of directors.
Jonathan Ross was an investor.
Jonathan Ross was an investor, yes. Matthew Freud, Tom Hunter, Chris Gorman. So that showed me how these entrepreneurs operate at a rarefied level of oxygen in the stratosphere. Oh my God, they work hard, they party hard. They were defying gravity in terms of how the hell they did their business. It was unbelievable. So that was a very interesting insight. And then I joined Woolies, which, again, another great British institution, well over 100 years of heritage, 820 stores on every high street. And we had such scale. We were 30% of the toy industry, 30% of the entertainment industry, and 30% of the confectionery industry, and employing 27,000 people. And within 2 years, I was nominated to be commercial director and put on the main board. at the age of 39. So again, I'd set myself some milestones along the way, and that was a great achievement to be on a main board PLC before I was 40. So
I mean,
that was great fun.
It's such an achievement. Like, you literally launched into the stratosphere as far as career goes. When you were at Woolworths, I mean, there were like 3 generations of family members actually still working in the company.
Often, you see, Woolies was at the very heart of so many communities, at the heart of so many high streets, that there would often be 3 generations of the same family in the same store.
Wow.
And it was steeped in family tradition and was very much a part of the fabric of the UK, of those communities, not just because it was a big employer, but there was something for everybody in a Woolies store, and it was part of the family repertoire to go to Woolies, whether it's to steal, pick and mix, or buy your first, record or your first lipstick or whatever. Everybody's got a story about
Back
Woolies.
to school, man.
Yeah,
Back to school.
Huge, yeah.
That was a massive one.
So we used to go out to the Far East to do the buying trip for back to school, and my buyer would place an order for 600,000 sets of fibre tip pens, and the volumes were just staggering. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Woolies was the destination for back to school, as it was for Christmas, as it was for half price sale, and confectionery, Easter eggs, all massive, massive, big turnover.
So
big
what
volumes.
pulled you away from Woolies? Because what an amazing position you had there.
No, you're absolutely right. So it was in 2007. I'd been commercial director for 4 years, and I got a phone call from a headhunter to say, hey, would you be interested in a supermarket job? I'm like, nah, absolutely not. I've done Marks and Spencer's, I've done Toys R Us, I'm loving Woolies. But what I would like to do, rather than spend any more time in retail in the UK, would actually I'd like to get closer to what were then the emerging markets of China and India. So we're going back to, literally 2007. And I thought it would be actually really useful if my children could speak Mandarin. And I thought the experience of British retail and translating that skill set and all that rich experience into retail in Asia, I thought would add a lot of value and be something quite different. And clearly I'd been traveling to Hong Kong and China for many, many years, but it felt like a natural period of my career to transition and try something a bit different, which still played to all my experience, but would challenge me also in a very different way, be that culturally, language, children's education. So I thought it would be a good challenge for myself and the family to actually take a leap of faith.
I mean, taking that leap, I've lived in Asia for years, you've lived in Asia for years, and you on the top of your game in a major company, woman in power, and you look at Asia as an upgrade. You look at Asia as the next step, and that's really amazing. I mean, it really puts Asia in its place, and also the opportunity as well.
Yeah, I did. I wrote a business proposition to the main board and said, this is why I'd like to transition to become managing director of Woolworths Asia, basically. And it was a pivot away from direct retailing, more sourcing, the manufacturing side, different types of P&L management, really. But I also thought it would be good for my kids to get out of a leafy prep school. They didn't think so at the time, I have to say, but they saw the light. But yeah, I literally plucked them out of a lovely prep school and dropped them into a concrete jungle at the age of 11 and 13.
What was that transition like for your kids? Because obviously they're grown up now. I mean...
Oh my God. So, plus, that first 18 months or so, I went back to the UK because I was still on the board.
Okay.
So I went back 14 times back to the UK for board meetings and other bits and pieces. And I remember sitting having dinner in a restaurant, and I said to the children, oh, look, I'm really jet lagged, I'm really stressed. And they said, Mum, you have no idea how stressed we are. You got the start dates wrong for school, so we missed the first 2 weeks of school, so we couldn't meet any friends, so we couldn't go on the onboarding away trip. And you think you're stressed. We don't speak Cantonese with a minority 5% Caucasians, and you screwed up the starting date. So we just messed everything up, and we didn't even know where the next classroom was. So it was a real dressing down for me.
But I mean, you're still playing mum and you're the head of a major company. You managed to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I have a very supportive husband who's put up with me for 40 years as well. So he did a lot of the heavy lifting, to be fair, with the school trips and things. But yeah, you have to do both. And I wouldn't have had it any other way. But sure, there are always compromises, and there are, prices to pay. Did I miss some sports days? Yes. Did I miss some swimming tournaments? Yes. But, they've all come through it. They speak Cantonese and Mandarin. Their cohort of friends are so international, and they're still in Hong Kong now. They're working. They're 31 and 29. But, they have international friends, and they do still believe that Hong Kong is very much their home.
How amazing is that when you've uprooted them from the UK, now they're grown up, and they still want to live in Hong Kong?
Yeah. Having gone to university in the US and in the UK, they did, and worked in the UK as well, but gravitated back to Hong Kong just before COVID, actually. So the four of us were, fortunately, although Hong Kong was in total lockdown, at least we were in the same country. But but they travel a lot, and they're just interesting young men. I can't call them kids anymore. And I think they've really benefited from an expat education and the breadth, but they don't see colour, creed, religion. It's always just been a huge melting pot of interesting individuals, and all the opportunities to play rugby, to play cricket, anything they wanted to do was always available, and they've taken advantage of that.
Yeah.
And but even their friends, they're good guys. They all just hang out together, and they feel like an extension of our family too.
I feel so. Whenever I meet people that have lived abroad for so long, when I'm talking with fellow expats, like you're in your crowd, if that makes sense. I struggle when I go back to the UK. I have to admit, like, I just, I'm having a conversation with some random person, and they're not on the same level, maybe.
Yeah.
I love that international flair that we all get when we've been here for a long time, and that communication.
Yes, there's always plenty to talk about.
So let's talk about your transition into Toys R Us again from...
Yeah.
I mean, they got you back.
I know. Can you believe it? After I did 12 years in the UK and then Woolies, and in the interim as well, I set up a manufacturing business in China as well. So, yes, the opportunity to take over as head of merchandise for Toys R Us Asia, which is covering 10 markets, China, Japan, down to the Philippines, was just a great opportunity, if I'm honest. On my first day, I walk in, they give me this very same login that I had left in 1999 and the same AS400 computer system that I had left in 1999.
Wow.
I could not believe it. And yes, to the day I left, I had the same login that I had all those years back from the 80s.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. But again, another fun 12 years. Again, big scale, 550 stores, 10 markets. That was really interesting because every day was different in that you were talking with different currencies, different pricing, different VAT structures, let alone different languages and different trading standards. So it was always extremely interesting and in an industry that I love. And yes, we went through the bankruptcy in the US, and we were a separate legal entity, so we had to keep the Asia piece going whilst there was absolute decimation around us. 2017, I was made Chief Commercial Officer, but again, the board structure and everything has changed a couple of times. But it's still a great brand, great business, and I do feel you've got to enjoy what you do and throw yourself into it. So to be able to open new stores, new markets, and have all that rich experience of the toy industry was really a lot of fun, a lot of travel. But again, that's the beauty of being in Asia and an Asia hub. You can travel so easily.
Yeah.
So yes, a lot of learning. And then we bought in Phuket, actually, gosh, over 11 years ago.
I mean, it was a good time to buy.
It was always the place to come for weekends. And because I was traveling so much, it was very easy to, on a Friday, to have a meeting in Singapore and then hop to Phuket for the weekend and vice versa. So that was the appeal of finding somewhere here. And with the long-term intention to finally move out here. And we managed that in 2023.
So, I mean, going from here to there to here to there, I love seeing you in your natural environment of, you know, in your running gear, for example, doing a mountain trail or something like that. And it's just like you've curated this lifestyle for yourself after doing so much, and you've powered down in Phuket. And that's the beautiful thing about, you know, being based here for myself. Like you meet some seriously interesting people.
Yeah.
Like seriously interesting people. I want to circle back about, you know, obviously business and you've gone through these companies, and I don't want any gritty details, but what I'd love to approach is basically you've gone through, you know, in between jobs and in between companies, and you've gone through some hardships that a lot of expats face, and you got through it impeccably. Like, don't get me wrong, at the time it must have felt really, really hardcore, you know, but you've gone through some serious things that it's not all roses. And a lot of expats, they don't talk about these times, if that makes sense. Like, COVID for me was absolutely atrocious in the beginning. I mean, we had a really hard fall from grace, but you know, it worked out in the end, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing was obviously Woolworths going into administration. I was the only director here in Asia. So the collapse was obviously extremely painful in the UK. 27,000 people lost their jobs. I was on the group board, but I had to follow Hong Kong legislation. Although the administration was going through in the UK, I had to take a very steep learning curve in terms of how that was translated into Hong Kong law. And I had, obviously, as the only director, had to abide by that. So that meant chairing the creditors' meetings and other legal obligations, which I know my peers in the UK were not subjected to. It was incredibly painful, you know, losing my entire team. So there's one side of it, which is your professional face and dealing with the administrators, the creditors, everything basically fell to me. But then once the whole the Asia business had gone into administration as well, I lost my house, my income, my car, my school fees. I lost everything. Yeah. We went from having a relatively comfortable lifestyle to losing everything. And, you know, I didn't know where to go. I mean, it was absolutely desperate. And I said to the kids, do we pack up and throw in the Asian towel and say, we go back to the UK, Mum looks for another job in the UK, tail between our legs, and, you know, the journey, the story wasn't quite a happy ending. And they said, no, come on, we're here, we're sort of 18 months in, we're not giving it up and going back.
Power through.
So, but really hard lessons were learned. For kids who were used to having their school uniform, going on trips, rugby boots whenever they wanted them, they had none of that for at least 2 years. They had to rummage around in Lost and Found to get replacement school uniform. While I set up a new company, did a little bit of consulting, but I spent 3 years traveling to China 3 times a week, growing a design and manufacturing business, running a factory in China. Christ, it was really brutal and very, very hard. And we got through it. I wouldn't say I'd like to do it again. I wouldn't. But the kids really do believe they learnt some critical lessons in life, that money doesn't grow on trees, and when it stops, it stops. But we got through it. Obviously, we had to change house. I had to borrow, scrape, plead. Yeah, it was not nice, but that's life. And then, we sort of got through all of that. And then the opportunity to join Toys R Us came along, and it was like, oh, well, that would be a breeze.
I'll have a little bit of that.
I think so. That sounds very doable. And so again, interesting board and the opportunity, to meet the funds and to see how they operate. They invested in me to go to MIT.
Wow.
And I'm like, at my age, nobody's ever invested in me to do anything like that. So it was a great exposure, working with great teams, and just the opportunity to have all these different markets, and everyone is unique, different, with its own idiosyncrasies, but even the teams and the management are different. So I felt very privileged to, as Chief Commercial Officer, to drive the merchandise and marketing strategy and work very closely with my CEO and my CFO in terms of what the different dynamics we could bring to bear in all of these different markets. And that was a lot of fun.
To survive situations like that, you need to be built from sterner stuff. I mean, you've got, how can I say, forged in fire, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I'm the youngest of 5, so I've got 3 older brothers who made growing up pretty robust for me, shall we say. So I guess there was always, an element there of strength and determination. Certainly, I've always thrown everything at every job I've had, and tried to give as much as I possibly could. Even before COVID, the US went into administration. So that was another battle where my integrity was on the line, when the vendors did not want to ship to Toys R Us Asia, even though it was a separate legal entity. We had plenty of cash. Once a big institution like the US was going into administration, and then it was like a pack of cards, all the other markets, except Asia was ring-fenced, thank God. But it was very challenging talking to a lot of CFOs to say we are different, because effectively I was the face of Toys R Us Asia to the outside brands, the toy brands, because they didn't know my CEO or CFO. It was always Joe Hall, who's been in the toy industry for 30 plus years.
And you had to chair those meetings. You had to be the one.
Personally.
Yeah.
And with the banks and letters of credit, bank guarantees, again, you learn so much on the job. And then, of course, COVID hit. So I was on a call with my China team in the November of 2019. And the call came through, the MD said, I've just had to close 7 stores in Wuhan in November 2019. And then the rest is history. The tsunami just came through China. So we had an emergency management team just to talk about COVID before the West knew what the hell we were doing, because we were heading into Chinese New Year in China.
Which is big.
Full inventory. The stores were locked and loaded, and all that inventory and cash tied up. Chinese New Year is far bigger than Christmas.
Way bigger.
Much, much bigger. We were ready to go, and we were having to put stores into lockdown. This was before anything was going on in the US or UK, that nobody knew what COVID was. So we were at the cutting edge, and from these emergency meetings, we established basically a sort of emergency task force, what to do, and then we implemented that. As COVID spread into each of the different markets, we'd learned so much from China.
I mean, what an amazing edge that you've basically learned so much beforehand, and you've prepared, you've ready, you've battened down the hatches.
Yeah, and we turned on e-commerce very, very quickly. We turned on ship from store. We had the blackout stores, let alone the personal impact, which was horrendous in China. We spent 2 years feeding our China team. We weren't selling toys, we were feeding the China team.
And that's what happens when you've got such a massive workforce. You either decide to keep it on or let them go, and you kept them on for a long time.
Oh yes, we did. We didn't lose anybody. And we're very proud of that. very proud of that. But yes, there's a lot of physical and mental damage done as well. But let's stay light-hearted, shall we?
Light-hearted.
That's for another book. Yes.
So, I mean, how can I say, your experience with getting stuff done and making how can I say, course changes are undoubtedly really notable. But you've also got experience in dealing with, for example, Toys R Us is quite famous for the private equity story, and I don't want to get into details, but you have more experience than most other heads of companies with that. And for someone who's looking to scale their business to that level, I mean, what advice could you give?
Well, we spent 12 months, a year of 2019, well, the end of 18 and 19, basically doing the roadshows with every single private equity company who were looking at effectively purchasing the last piece of Toys R Us Asia. And it was the jewel in the crown, really, because it survived, it was very profitable, opening new markets, opening new stores. But I learned a lot from literally week after week, month after month, sitting in private equity meetings where you're grilled and drilled for every single minute detail around your business. So, Joe, why did the margin change in September of 2018? And I have to answer these questions. So, again, I learned a lot, taking phone calls with private equity all over the place, across Japan, China, the US. I mean, it was a massive roadshow of private equity, potential investment, the most expensive lawyers in New York. I mean, my God, I spent that time not looking at the business. My teams, as good and as efficient as they are, were running the business, while the CEO, CFO, and myself were basically being paraded around the private equity boardrooms and calls and what have you. So, yes, you learn on the job, basically, and you have to adapt very, very quickly. I would also say that, I'd like to think that I'm a good leader and I've built really robust teams, a great proponent of developing men and women to be good leaders too. So that always helps when the business is not in distress, but stressed. You do need your next tier of management to step up and know that they will do a good job and the wheels won't fall off.
I mean, keeping that machine running whilst going through all of that, people can't even fathom how hard it is to run a business, let alone go through all of that. And obviously, Toys R Us Asia was a separate entity from the US firm, but still trying to get that extra that extra bit over the line, and it's wow.
Yeah, I went to the US 3 times in 3 weeks, which is equally punishing for different reasons, but with literally stepping off a plane and going straight to a lawyer's meeting where you need your wits around you. And there's people who want your blood as well, and it's like, we're trying to do the right thing for the business here, guys. There's no ulterior motive. We're just trying to protect jobs, and we've invested personally, emotionally, so much of ourselves into driving and growing this huge business. We're not going to piss it away.
No.
So it's a big emotional investment, and when people are trying to challenge you and catch you out, it's like, okay, it's, personal integrity, leadership, authenticity is so important. And I guess at the end of the day, that's what people want to invest in as well. Yeah. So, yes, learned an interesting fact of how the wheels of private equity and very big law firms operate as well.
I've been in several meetings similar to that. I wouldn't say at that high level, but I mean, it really is an open kimono policy. They want to see everything into your deepest, darkest soul. It's insane. It's insane. And it's really demanding.
Yeah.
So, more lighthearted, let's go back to, you've powered down, you retired. but you've not retired. You're still active in voluntary work. I wouldn't
Yes.
call it work. I would just call it voluntary positions. But I mean, you're still a board member in several places.
I am. I am advising and mentoring a couple of businesses. Like I said, I hope I can be a good female role model, as well as a good role model of a leader as well. You talk about this experience. It's amazing what depth of experience you can draw upon in the most unusual of places. So one of a good friend who I am supporting, because she's got a very big contract, she didn't know how to handle a particularly difficult situation where another of her customers was going into administration. And of course, unfortunately, I've got an A level in it. So I was able to advise her how best to handle that. And she followed my advice, and she didn't lose any money, which I think was good and solid. Another occasion, she's setting up with a new client, is a very, very well-known FMCG company who wanted all her past 5 years' accounts. And I said, you are under no obligation. Whereas she was in an absolute tailspin, thinking she'd have to go through 5 years of accounts to win that customer. And again, I spent all through the administration where all of those companies wanted to see all of our accounts. And I said, no, you have no right to ask me for our accounts. So again, it's grit, determination, with a smile on my face, but I would not capitulate, and I wouldn't be bullied, and I never have been. Maybe it's because of my brothers, I don't know, but I will not respond to bullying, and I know my facts. And when you're on the right side of the law, you can just say to these big guys, who are very, very big players. So again, when you talk about sitting on those boards, it's amazing. The next phone call, I will just be drawing on another piece of experience. Oh, I hadn't thought about that for a while, but yeah, I guess I got that T-shirt as well.
I mean, it's just such, how can I say, it's the experience that gives you that authority. With your background from going to Marks and Spencer's and Woolworths and Toys R Us and back and forth, and you've gone through so many stages of these massive companies, and for expats, when they're going to take on a job in Asia, they need to be ready for obviously the path that they're going to go on, but also they need to be ready for the rocky bits along the way. And
we haven't even touched upon the riots in Hong Kong, where we had riot police with guns outside my office every day. I mean, loaded up with full machine guns, and you would never have believed it would happen in Hong Kong. And going out to buy a sandwich at lunchtime, and you can't get out of your office because there's 50 riot police.
How long was that ordeal outside your office?
That's part of a year, easily. Protests, riots. It was tragic. It takes a lot to make me cry, but Hong Kong was our home. It was a very emotional time to not just witness the transformation of the city, but it just begged belief that this was really, really happening. And I think then with the national security legislation that came through, that was another reason to call it a day in Hong Kong as well. So Hong Kong now has changed really quite significantly. But you talk to any of the expats here in Phuket, and they've either been in Hong Kong or Singapore and have moved here, in the main for either a quieter lifestyle or that adjustment to say, okay, you use the phrase powering down, it's a very good phrase. I think it's refreshing and healthy to say, actually, it's not a bad time to not only move countries again. I promised my husband we're not moving countries again. He's had enough. What is so fabulous about Phuket and the expat community is it's diverse, but there's a lot of commonality as well.
Right.
In that most of us have lived in Asia for many, many years. Most of us have had very successful careers. We're all fitness fanatics or doing charity work. There is so much to do here and so many communities, just so many genuine people with no hidden agendas, no ulterior motives. Everybody supports everybody. I love the fact that we're outdoors. There's a very healthy lifestyle, and there's so much to do here.
There really is.
That's what's fantastic. And I guess we'll touch on PRWC as well in terms of, this charitable organisation is the longest established, I believe, in Phuket. It's a ladies' charity, been going for 36 years, and sponsors local Thai students who are bright but perhaps disadvantaged in some way. We work with about 6 different schools, and there's a detailed interview process, but we will then select a number of students each year that we will sponsor right the way through university. And to date, we've supported over 1,700 students,
Wow.
which is fantastic. And now that alumni are lawyers, are doctors, are professionals, and they're also giving back to their local communities as well, which is fabulous. So it's a very virtuous cycle. And yes, I've just joined the board of that as well. And I'm actually just introducing a ladies' business networking group within that. Again, both for Thai ladies and expats. There's a wealth of experience here. So
There really is.
Yeah.
Phuket gets such a bad rap purely because people only see maybe 1 or 2 layers of it.
Yeah.
However, when you dive deep into the actual people that do live here, you find that it's a lot of, previously powerful people, or, they've had a lot of experience and they've chosen Phuket to settle down, because there is that upper epsilons of societies and whatever, but you've also got those communities that genuinely want to give back. I love Phuket. I think it gets a really bad rap for traffic. I think if that's the only thing that they can come up with, then okay.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, the communities here and the programs that are going on here and the lifestyle that the location offers. I mean, I've done very well. I can't lie. I've done very well of people relocating from Hong Kong to Phuket. I mean, that's been my bread and butter for years. People relocating from Dubai, people relocating from Singapore, people relocating from Hong Kong, and then they obviously need a property, they need some insurance, whatever. And in that process, I've ended up meeting all these people, and that's where this podcast comes from. Like, let's talk, let's see who's around,
Sure.
But with the education system in Thailand as it is now, with Phuket, you've got 13 international schools. You've got some really, really very, very well laid out Thai schools as well, and some very good English programs. But for you to select, students every year and sponsor them all the way through, it's what an incredible charity. And the fact that it's been going for so long.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm a complete newbie, but it's very impressive. And again, an eclectic bunch of ladies. I think there's 37 different nationalities just in that one association. So it just shows the diversity. But, the mission is simple. And it's all about, sponsoring kids who deserve a chance. And we're all happy to do it.
So where do you see Phuket in the next 10 years, for example? Obviously, you've bought your place here, you've settled down, and you've promised your husband you're not going anywhere.
I know.
Give me your next few years, because obviously you're so active, and I believe that your journey's, still going to carry on for ages.
It's a good question. We definitely see Phuket as our new home, and we've changed all of our addresses, and everything is now moved to Phuket. I like the freedom of being able to travel more now, travel for pleasure as opposed on business. But I'm doing quite a few speaking engagements, which is very nice, puts me into different industries. For some reason, people are interested in my career and what I can bring to the table. So I see more of that. I will probably do a bit more mentoring, I think. In terms of location, we're very much comfortable here. You know, the Thai people are an absolute delight. I think to wake up in the morning, see blue sky, people with a genuine smile on their face, it just fills your heart with the joy and think, well, you know, life's not bad. You know, having come from the UK, as many do. But whilst the charity and support there is great, I'm a big health fanatic, and I love that there's so much to do. That every morning I can get at least a good hour's workout, and it'd be so different, whether that's a hike, whether that's a swim, whether it's a boot camp, whether it's a run. It's all there, and that we haven't even mentioned paddle or pickleball and all the other stuff.
Not even touched on it. Yeah.
So I haven't got time to play that. So, but I do find also, I come back to my tribe. It's such a caring community, far more so than Hong Kong, to my mind. I've got far more friends here than, okay, I had business associates and a small group in Hong Kong, but everybody here has plenty of time and they use it wisely, and nothing's too much trouble. In a very safe and secure environment, it's very, very pleasant.
As far as expat communities go, I think Phuket is winning on so many levels. I've travelled so much, it's like probably not as much as yourself, but I've really travelled, and I've gone into these meetings or, you know, expat events and whatever, and I just see Phuket as more of a, how can I say, more of a family than most other expat communities. Yeah. You've got so many different things going on, but I think, you know, meeting people like yourself and meeting people that have come from, you know, years and years of life and work around Asia, I think Phuket's a great end of the line destination kind of thing, you know. Yeah,
definitely. The far worse places to be. So we're lucky, you know, no question. So I guess the price you pay is you don't see your family as much. And I understand that, you know, my husband and I are both from very, very big families, but we'll be going back for 7 weeks over the summer, which is gosh, to have the luxury, you know, a family holiday at best was 2 weeks. So yeah, so that's very nice. And just having the boys still in Hong Kong, it's 3 hours away, so that's bad. So yeah, we are lucky.
Well, thank you so much for coming today. You've given me a lot to think about. I want to take this experience and basically, how can I say, I want to show the world what it's like to actually be a genuine expat. You know, you've come over from the UK, you come over working in a country that's alien to you, and you've made it your own, you know. And it's for me, this is what this podcast is about. I love speaking to people, I love getting business insights, and I love seeing people that have come from this, you know, powerful positions, and they don't stop. You can't turn it off. You have to carry on, and it's great to see, and I will be following your journey and following your charity work and following the boards that you're on, with excitement and eagerness. So yeah.
Good.
Thank you, Jo.
My pleasure.
And so if you like this podcast, then please like and share and comment your experiences, if you have any, below. But most importantly, understand that if you are going to look to move to Asia, if you're not here already, then the amount of communities that are in place, that are waiting for you, are just, there's an ample amount of community, there's an ample amount of lifestyle, and you can pick and choose what you want to do. So yeah, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And we'll hope to get you back another time.
All right, great, thank you.
Come.